My name is Judith, and the day my mother betrayed me began with a phone call I almost ignored. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where sunlight feels clean, ordinary. The kind that tricks you into believing life is steady. My kitchen was quiet, coffee warm, bills neatly stacked by date. Then my phone buzzed. Mom. Elaine Larson never calls to chat. She calls when something breaks, and it is never hers. I stared at the screen, ready to let it go to voicemail, but something inside me sighed and pressed accept. Judith, she said, breathless, I need you to come home. It is urgent. My heart ticked faster. Is it you or Beverly this time? A pause. It is your sister. She made a mistake, but we can fix it. We. Always we, meaning me. By the time I pulled into the old driveway, my stomach was tight. The white paint on the porch was peeling. The roses my father planted still fought through the soil like stubborn memories. I walked in without knocking. Mom and Beverly were in the kitchen. Beverly's makeup had melted into gray streaks. Mom twisted a towel in her hands like she was trying to wring the truth out of it. Judith, Mom said. Finally. What happened? Beverly's voice trembled. Marcus left. I blinked. Left? As in gone. She nodded. He said he's tired of saving me. He said he's done paying for my mistakes. Mom touched her shoulder like she was protecting a child. He overreacted. We just need a little help. I folded my arms. Help with what? Beverly's eyes darted to Mom's. Silence. Help, I repeated. With what? Finally, Mom sighed. Judith, your sister fell behind on a loan. It is complicated. Uncomplicate. Beverly sniffed. It was supposed to be a flip house. Marcus thought we'd make a profit. But the market dropped, the contractor vanished, and we couldn't keep up. Mom added quickly. You know your sister is not good with money. It spiraled. Marcus panicked. How far behind? I asked. No one answered. How far behind? 6 months, Beverly whispered. I pressed my tongue against my teeth. So why am I here? Mom smiled nervously. Because we already found a solution. The loan is under control now. All we need is time. Whose name is the loan under? Mom hesitated. Beverly stared at her hands. Whose name? I repeated. Mom took a breath. Yours. The air left the room. My what? We used your credit, Beverly blurted. Only to refinance. It was Mom's idea. Just until things settled. My pulse thudded in my ears. You forged my name? Mom's voice snapped like glass. Don't dramatize it. We copied it. You always sign the same way. I laughed short, sharp, hollow. You stole my identity to save her marriage. Don't say stole, Mom said. We did it for the family. Beverly was drowning. You are single, no children, solid job, you can handle a little debt. I stared at her. A little. Judith, please, she said softly. You know how men are. Marcus would have left forever. You would not want to see your sister's marriage end over paperwork. Paperwork. That was how she described signing away my future. For years I had been the stable one, the helper, the invisible daughter who always understood. I was never the favorite, only the fallback. And now they had turned me into collateral. Beverly's voice shook. I am sorry, Jude. I was going to tell you, but Mom said it would only upset you. I swallowed hard. And you agreed. Mom crossed her arms. You will get over this. Families share. My father's voice flashed in my head, his warning in that lawyer's office before he died. Don't ever let them touch your future, Jude. The house is yours. Remember that. The house they lived in. The house they thought was ours. The house that legally belonged to me. They had used my name, my credit, my stability, forgetting the one thing I held that could undo them both. Mom reached for my hand. We can fix this, honey. We just need to trust each other. I pulled back. My voice came out cold. Oh, I trust you, Mom, I said. Completely. She smiled faintly, relieved. Then I added, that's what makes this so easy. Her smile faded. Easy? I looked around the kitchen, the house my father left me, and said quietly, you'll see. I left the house without another word. Mom called my name, but her voice faded behind me, swallowed by the creak of the front door. By the time I reached my car, I could not tell if I was shaking from rage or clarity. The air felt too still. My father's roses stood in perfect bloom, unaware that everything he built to protect me had just been turned into ammunition against me. I drove home with both hands tight on the wheel. No music. No thoughts, only one repeating question. How much did they take? Inside my apartment, I set my purse down, opened my laptop and typed faster than I could breathe. If they used my credit, there would be traces. Digital ghosts. Paper fingerprints. I searched my email inbox. Bills. Subscriptions. Ads. And then, immediate attention required. Overdue notice. I clicked. The loan balance was massive. The interest was predatory. And the signature at the bottom carried my full name. Judith A. Larson, co-borrower. My vision tunneled. Attached was a scanned document. I opened it. There it was, my handwriting that was not mine. The loops of the J were shaky. The slant of the A tilted wrong. Someone had traced me. Mom. I saved the file into a new folder. I named it Family Fraud in all caps. Then I searched again, sifting through months of digital noise until more emails appeared. Final reminder. Collections pending. Cosigner contact required. Every line was a record of theft disguised as love. I printed everything. The whirring of the printer filled my kitchen like mechanical breathing. When the last page dropped onto the pile, I realized my hands were trembling. I had always thought betrayal would come like thunder. This one came like a whisper written in fine print. My phone buzzed. Mom. Then Beverly. Then Mom again. I turned the phone over, screen face down. I was not ready to speak. I was ready to see. Opening my banking app, I checked every transaction. No stolen funds. My savings untouched. That was the cruelty of it. They did not want my money. They wanted my reputation. My name was their bridge. They walked across it, confident I would hold. I opened a blank document. Timeline of unauthorized credit use. I began typing dates, lenders, balances, interest rates. Line by line, my life turned into evidence. When I finished, I stared at the screen and whispered. They thought I wouldn't find out. But they were wrong. The next morning, my phone rang again. This time, a name that didn't make my stomach twist. Mira. We had been friends since middle school. Back when loyalty meant lending pencils and secrets. Mira had a calm voice that always sounded like she already knew the ending of the story. Judith, she said. You sound hollow. What happened? They used my credit, I said. She went silent. Then. Who did? My mother. My sister. They forged my signature. A long breath on the other end. Not shock, comprehension. How much? At least 70,000. Another breath. I'm coming over. I tried to protest, but she was already on her way. When she arrived, she didn't hug me. She looked at the pile of papers spread across my table and said one sentence that changed everything. This is not family drama, she said quietly. This is a crime. The word hung in the air like something sacred. I can't send my mother to jail, I whispered. Mira shook her head. You're not sending her anywhere. You're saving yourself. There's a difference. She sat down, flipping through the pages, sharp-eyed. You need a professional. Someone who can make this right. A lawyer. Yes. Someone who handles financial abuse. Because that's what this is. The phrase made my chest ache. Financial abuse. Mira nodded. You've been protecting them for years. They're counting on that. They think guilt is your leash. I stared at the forged signature, the one that pretended to be mine. Not anymore. Myra's tone softened. You're stronger than you think, Judith. But you need leverage. Do you have anything? A memory flashed, my father's voice in the lawyer's office, his hand on mine, his words steady. The house is yours, Jude. Never forget that. I looked up at her slowly. Yes, I said. I do. She tilted her head. Then let's use it. Mira came back the next morning with her hair still damp, a notebook under one arm, and that expression she always wore when something serious was about to happen. Coffee first, she said, handing me a cup. Then truth. We sat at my small kitchen table, the same place I had discovered my life collapsing 48 hours earlier. Show me everything, she said. I turned the laptop toward her. Emails. Statements. the fake signature that still made my stomach twist. She read in silence for nearly 10 minutes. Then she exhaled through her nose like someone trying to contain fire. "They didn't borrow your credit, Judith," she said quietly. "They stole your identity. Those are different worlds." I nodded, feeling small and furious all at once. "I just don't want to destroy my family." Mira leaned forward. "They already destroyed your peace. All you're doing is collecting the pieces they dropped." The words hit deep. She flipped to a blank page in her notebook. "You need legal ground. Not emotion. Legal." "I don't know where to start." "I do." She began writing names, numbers, arrows. "Valerie Trent. She's a lawyer. I used her when my cousin's ex forged documents after their breakup. She's quiet but ruthless." I hesitated. "Mira, I can't afford a fight." "Judith," she said, "you can't afford to lose your name." By that afternoon, I was sitting in Valerie's office. The building was old brick, the kind that smells like paper and patience. Valerie was in her 40s, calm brown eyes, no small talk. Just questions. "What happened?" she asked. I pushed the folder across the table. "My mother and sister used my credit. They forged my name. They said it was to save my sister's marriage." She opened the folder and began to read. Not a blink, not a sigh. Just quiet focus. When she looked up, her tone was surgical. "This is identity theft, Ms. Larson. Forgery. Financial abuse. And because you can prove both, the law is entirely on your side." Hearing it aloud made my pulse race. "I don't want to put my mother in jail," I said again. "You don't have to," Valerie said. "We start with boundaries, not punishment. You want restoration, not revenge." That word stuck, restoration. She made a few notes. "You said your family lives in your father's house?" I nodded. "They do. My mother calls it hers, but the deed is in my name. My father changed it before he passed." Valerie smiled faintly. "Then you have leverage." The way she said it sent a shiver down my spine. "You are not a powerless daughter," she continued. "You are a property owner whose trust was violated. That distinction changes everything." I swallowed. "What happens next?" "First, we dispute the fraudulent accounts. I'll contact the banks directly. That starts repairing your credit." She turned another page. "Second, we send official letters, cease and desist orders to your mother and sister. They'll know you're represented and that you're serious." "And third?" I asked. Her voice softened. "We give them a chance to make it right before legal escalation. But if they ignore it," she paused, eyes steady, "we file civilly and begin eviction proceedings." The word eviction made my chest tighten. "She's still my mother," I whispered. Valerie nodded. "And you were still her daughter when she forged your name." That line silenced every protest I had rehearsed. Valerie slid a form across the desk. "Sign this and I represent you starting today. You won't have to talk to lenders or collection agencies again." My hand trembled slightly as I wrote my name, my real signature. When the pen lifted, Valerie looked at me the way a doctor looks at a patient who finally agreed to surgery. "Good," she said. "You've just taken back control." Outside, the afternoon light felt sharper. I drove home slowly, my heart pounding like something alive again. For years I had believed calm meant safety. Now I understood calm had been silence. And silence had been their weapon. That night Mom called again. I watched her name blink across the screen. For the first time in my life, I let it ring until it stopped. I wasn't their cleanup crew anymore. I was becoming their consequence. 2 days later, Valerie called. "Letters delivered," she said. "Both acknowledged. I suggest we meet them tomorrow on neutral ground, or at the house if you're ready." My throat tightened. "The house," I said. "It started there. It should end there." 4 o'clock, she replied. "I'll bring the documents." The next afternoon, I parked in front of the house I had grown up in. The white paint looked grayer now, the porch smaller. For the first time in my life, it did not feel like home. It felt like evidence. Valerie stepped out of her car, calm as gravity, a slim folder in her hand. "Stay steady," she said quietly. "You are not a child visiting your mother. You are an owner visiting your property." Inside, the smell was exactly the same, lavender cleaner and stale air. Beverly sat at the kitchen table with a tissue crushed in her hand. Mom stood by the counter, pale and defensive. Judith, she said tightly, what is this about? You scared your sister half to death with that letter. Valerie closed the door behind us. This is about unauthorized financial activity, Mrs. Larson. Mom's gaze snapped toward her. And who are you? Valerie Trent. I represent your daughter. Represent? Mom echoed, eyes flashing. We're family. Families don't hire lawyers. Families also don't forge each other's signatures, Valerie said evenly. The room went still. Beverly looked between us, her mascara already trembling. Mom didn't mean harm, she said weakly. She just wanted to help. I stepped forward, my voice low but steady. Help would have been asking, not stealing. Mom's jaw clenched. We borrowed your credit, Judith. Borrowed. That's all. You're overreacting. Valerie opened the folder and laid out the printed documents across the table like cards in a game Mom could no longer control. Forged contract. Digital signature trace. Email confirmation sent to your personal address, Mrs. Larson. Your handwriting on the original application. Your daughter's credit report with 6 missed payments. Each word landed like a nail. Mom tried to speak, but Valerie continued. My client has no intention of pursuing criminal charges at this time. However, she does intend to protect her financial future and her legal property. Mom blinked. Property? Valerie turned to me. You have the copy? I nodded and pulled the deed from my folder. The official seal gleamed faintly under the kitchen light. This house, I said quietly, was transferred to me by Dad before he passed. You signed the documents, Mom. You may have forgotten, but the record hasn't. Mom's color drained. That's not possible. He wouldn't. He did, I said. He knew how you operated. He wanted to make sure at least one of us was safe. Beverly rose to her feet, voice breaking. Judith, you can't do this. This is our home. It's mine, I said simply. Legally and now morally. You both used my credit to protect your marriage, your comfort, your chaos. You put my name on debt without my consent. That ends today. Valerie's voice softened but stayed firm. Mrs. Larson, Miss Larson, these are the options. 1. You sign this repayment and responsibility agreement, acknowledging full liability for the loan. 2. You vacate the property within 30 days. If neither happens, we proceed to court. Mom's eyes widened. You're evicting us? I'm holding you accountable, I said. Her hands trembled. After everything I've done for you. You mean everything you've done to me? I interrupted. She stared at me as if seeing me for the first time. You've changed, she whispered. Yes, I said. I finally grew into the daughter you never expected to answer back. Beverly sobbed quietly. We'll pay it back. Just don't do this, Jude. Valerie pushed the papers forward. Then sign. Mom hesitated, hand hovering over the pen. This is humiliating. I met her eyes. So was finding out my own family thinks I'm disposable. She signed. The sound of the pen scratching the paper was the cleanest noise I had ever heard. Valerie gathered the documents calmly. You'll each receive official copies. Payments begin next month. If you default again, further legal action will follow. Mom turned on me, voice cracking. How could you do this to us? I didn't, I said. You did it to yourself. I just stopped letting you hide it. She sank into the chair, the fight leaving her shoulders. Valerie nodded once toward me, subtle approval in her eyes. As we stepped toward the door, Mom's voice trembled behind me. Judith, wait. What are you going to do with the house? I paused. Decide, I said. Because it's time someone finally did. Outside, Valerie's voice was quiet but proud. That was your first real stand, Judith. How do you feel? Terrified, I admitted. But honest. Good, she said. Honesty has a way of scaring people who built their lives on pretending. The sun was setting, painting the old house gold. For a moment it looked almost beautiful again. Until I remembered who was inside. They thought signing that paper ended it. But as I drove away I realized something else. It wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a plan they'd never see coming. That night I did not sleep. The house felt too quiet, too clean. I sat at my desk, the signed agreement in front of me. My mother's signature, shaky and resentful. Beverly's small and uneven. Two women who had finally been forced to admit what they had done. But admitting was not the same as understanding. Valerie had said, "You have leverage now." I kept hearing it in my head like a rhythm. Leverage meant control. Control meant freedom. For the first time I had both. The next morning I called Mira. "It's done," I said. Her voice sharpened. "They signed?" "Yes." "Then what's next?" "Balance," I said. "And maybe consequences they can't ignore." By noon I was at the bank, closing every joint account I'd ever shared with my mother, the old savings she'd insisted we keep for emergencies. She had used that phrase my whole life as a leash. Now the leash snapped. I moved every cent into a new account under my name alone. I ordered credit monitoring, fraud alerts, freezes on new lines. The banker, a polite young man, said, "Someone must have really hurt you." I smiled thinly. Someone did. By the time I left, my hands no longer shook. That afternoon, I met Valerie again to finalize the next steps. She glanced over the repayment agreement and said, "They have 60 days to make their first installment. If they miss, we file immediately. You'll get back every dollar they borrowed, plus damages." "And the house?" I asked. She looked up. "What do you want to do with it?" "I don't know," I admitted. "Part of me wants to sell it. But another part wants to keep it, not for them. For Dad." Valerie nodded. "Keep it if it brings peace. Sell it if it brings freedom. Either way, make it yours. That's the point." When I left her office, the decision came quietly. I would not sell the house yet. Not until they understood what it meant to live under a roof they no longer owned. That night I drove back there. I didn't go inside. I stood across the street and watched through the lit kitchen window. Mom was pacing. Beverly was crying. Their voices carried faintly into the dark. It should have satisfied me. But it didn't. Because I knew them. Remorse would fade. Excuses would return. They'd call it a misunderstanding again, and eventually they'd try to rewrite history, make themselves the victims, me the ungrateful one. So I decided to write the story myself. The next morning I called Mira. "I'm taking back the house," I said. "You mean legally?" she asked. "Completely. Physically. Emotionally." "How?" "By turning their guilt into reality." She laughed softly. "That sounds ominous." "I'm hiring tenants," I said. "Real ones. Reliable ones. I'll rent out the upstairs and reclaim the downstairs. They can either stay and pay or leave." Myra's tone turned serious. "That's brilliant." "It's fair," I said. "They thought I was soft. They mistook compassion for weakness." The following week, Valerie drafted new tenancy agreements. The house was formally divided. 2 rental units, one managed directly by me. I posted the listing quietly, using my middle name so my family wouldn't notice. Not yet. It took less than 3 days to find interested tenants. A retired teacher and her husband. Respectful, quiet, financially stable. When they came to view the place, Mom wasn't home. I walked them through the upper floor myself. It looked the same, but it felt different. When I signed their lease, I added a silent note to myself. "Dad, I'm keeping your promise." Later that week, Mom called again, this time calmer. "Judith," she began, the way she always did when she wanted something. "Your sister and I talked. We've decided to make the first payment early. Maybe you can drop the legal stuff now? We're family. We can fix this privately." I waited for the apology that never came. "Mom," I said, "this isn't about punishment. It's about boundaries." "You're being dramatic," she snapped. "Do you want me homeless?" "I want you accountable," I said. "Your father would never." "Dad gave me this house," I interrupted, "because he knew exactly what you would do if I didn't have protection." Her breath caught. Silence. Then quietly, "You're not the daughter I raised." "No," I said. "I'm the one you created." When I hung up, I didn't cry. For the first time, I didn't even shake. 2 days later, Beverly sent a long email, half apology, half self-defense. "Mom didn't mean to hurt you. She was desperate. We didn't realize how much this would upset you." At the end, one sentence made my stomach turn. "Maybe once things settle, we can move past this." Move past it. As if forgiveness was a duty, not a choice. I replied with one line. Forgiveness is not a payment plan. Then I blocked her. By the end of the month, the new tenants moved in. Mom and Beverly stayed downstairs, subdued but tense, pretending everything was normal. They paid the first installment on time barely. But what they didn't know was that I had one more step planned. A quiet one. A lesson in permanence. I met with Valerie again, bringing her the updated property documents. She smiled slightly. You're becoming strategic. I'm becoming myself, I said. She nodded. And what's next? I looked out her office window, the city stretching wide and bright. They wanted my name, I said softly. Now they'll live under it. It happened on a Thursday morning, the day the second payment was due. I was at work when my phone buzzed with a notification from the bank. Returned payment. Insufficient funds. For a second I thought it was an error. Then my stomach sank. Mom and Beverly had defaulted. After barely a month. I called Valerie immediately. They missed the payment, I said. Her tone didn't waver. Do you want me to issue the formal breach notice? Yes, I said. Do it. Within hours the letter went out. Legally, they had 48 hours to correct it before the agreement dissolved and eviction began. That evening I drove to the house, not to confront them but to see. The porch light was on. Through the window I saw movement. Voices rose sharp and frantic. I parked across the street unseen. Beverly was pacing. Mom was on the phone, her tone brittle with desperation. I stepped closer until the words became clear. I told you she wouldn't keep pushing, Mom was saying. She's bluffing. She's always bluffing. We'll just wait her out. Beverly whispered something I couldn't hear. Then Mom snapped, Don't you dare cry again. You made this mess and I've cleaned it for you once already. Judith can live with a little guilt. The old script. The same manipulation recycled and weaponized. I felt my chest tighten. Not from anger but from recognition. They had not learned anything. They were planning their next escape. The next morning Valerie called again. They have until 5 p.m. today. If they don't pay, we move forward. I hesitated. If we evict them, where will they go? Not your responsibility, she said gently. Remember why we started this. I did remember. But part of me, the small exhausted daughter inside, still wanted it not to come to this. At 4:30 I drove to the house one last time. The air felt heavy, storm-ready. Mom opened the door before I knocked. Her face was drawn, her lipstick uneven. Judith, she said quickly. Come in. We need to talk. Inside, Beverly sat at the table red-eyed. There were papers spread out. A half-filled checkbook and envelope. Mom gestured helplessly. We're trying. We really are. But Marcus froze their joint account and everything's a mess. I just need a few more weeks. She reached for my hand, the same soft pleading tone she had used all my life. Honey, you don't want your mother thrown out of her home, do you? The words hit me like cold air. Her home. Even now she said her. Mom, I said quietly. This isn't about throwing anyone out. It's about stopping you from walking over me again. Her eyes flashed. So you're proud of this? Making your own mother beg? I exhaled slowly. I'm not proud. I'm tired. Beverly finally spoke. We'll fix it. Promise. Just please don't do this. Then pay, I said. Silence. Mom's gaze hardened. Your father would be ashamed of you. The last card. The cruelest one. But this time it didn't land. He's the one who warned me, I said. He's the reason I have that deed. Her mouth opened then closed again. I turned to leave. You have until 5. After that, Valerie handles everything. Behind me, Beverly's voice cracked. Judith, please, if we lose this house, Mom will fall apart. I paused at the doorway. Then maybe it's time she learns how to stand without me. Outside, thunder rolled across the sky. At exactly 5:13 my phone buzzed. A message from Valerie. No payment received. Filing initiated. I stared at the screen, rain beginning to tap the windshield. It was over, or it should have been. But then another message arrived, this time from Mira. You need to check your mailbox. Now. I drove home fast, heart pounding. Inside the box was a plain white envelope. No return address. I tore it open. Inside was a copy of the house deed, mine. Stamp disputed ownership claim filed. For a full second I couldn't breathe. They had filed something against me. My mother was not surrendering. She was fighting. For 10 minutes I just stared at the envelope, the red disputed ownership claim stamp burning through my mind like a brand. Then instinct took over. I called Valerie. She filed against me, I said, the words flat and unreal. Valerie's voice was calm but sharp. Send me a picture. Now. I snapped a photo and sent it. Within seconds, her reply came back. This is a false filing. It's illegal. We'll counter immediately. How could she even do it? I asked. The deed is in my name alone. Valerie exhaled. By lying. Claiming verbal co-ownership. Maybe referencing your father's will. County clerks sometimes file disputes automatically until it's reviewed. She's buying time. Time for what? To make you cave. The thought landed like a punch. My mother had gone beyond emotional manipulation. She was trying to rewrite law. By morning, Valerie had already requested certified copies of the deed and the estate file. We'll crush this, she said. But I want you ready. If she's willing to go this far, she may try to twist public sympathy. Don't engage. Let the evidence talk. But I knew Elaine. She didn't need evidence. She needed an audience. That afternoon the proof appeared. My cousin sent me a screenshot of a Facebook post. It's heartbreaking when your own child turns against family. My late husband always wanted our home to be shared, not stolen. Some people forget where they come from. Hundreds of likes. Dozens of comments. Poor Elaine. How could a daughter do this? I stared at it, pulse thudding in my ears. Mira called minutes later. She's playing victim, she said. Classic move. But if people only see her post, they'll believe it. I'm not posting back, I said. I'm showing. That night I drove to the county records office, the same one where Dad had signed the papers years ago. I requested every document, the transfer, the will, the witness signatures. The clerk slid the folder across the counter with a polite smile. Inside, in neat black ink, was my mother's own handwriting. Her signature beneath a line that read, I, Elaine Larson, consent to full property transfer to Judith Larson upon the death of John Larson. My stomach tightened. It was her own hand that proved her lie. Valerie smiled when she saw it. Perfect. This will end it. But I wanted more than an end. I wanted a reckoning. She leaned forward. Then let's make it public. How? I asked. Town mediation hearing. Open to record. You'll bring the evidence, she'll bring her story. Once she's under oath, she'll fold. The hearing was scheduled for Friday. When I arrived, the small conference room smelled like paper and fear. My mother was already there, dressed in pale pink, face soft, eyes moist. Beverly sat beside her, whispering comfort. Across the table, Valerie organized our documents with surgical precision. The mediator entered. We're here to discuss the ownership dispute of the property located at. Valerie interrupted politely. We have the original deed, transfer, and signed consent from Mrs. Larson herself. May we submit these? The mediator nodded. Elaine shifted in her seat. I was misled, she said quickly. I didn't realize what I was signing at the time. Valerie handed over the page. Please read the line you wrote beneath your signature, Mrs. Larson. Elaine hesitated. The mediator looked up. Mrs. Larson? Her voice cracked. I consented to transfer full ownership to Judith. Valerie said softly. Out loud, please. Elaine swallowed hard and repeated it. The room went silent. The mediator nodded slowly. Then there's no dispute. Beverly's hand flew to her mouth. Mom! Elaine turned on her, whispering fiercely. I did it for you. Valerie's eyes met mine. It's done, she mouthed. But I wasn't finished. Sir, I said to the mediator, may this statement be added to record? He nodded. I looked at my mother, calm and clear. I'm not taking anything from you. I'm reclaiming what you took from me, my name, my credit, my trust. This house was my father's legacy. You tried to weaponize it. That ends today. Elaine's lips trembled. You're humiliating me. No, I said quietly. You did that to yourself when you filed a false claim. The mediator signed the confirmation, stamped it, and slid the copy toward me. Case closed. Ownership upheld. Outside, cameras from the local paper were waiting. I didn't speak to them, but the next morning the headline said, "Daughter wins legal battle against family fraud. Justice feels like breathing again." Elaine didn't post again, but Beverly did. A single sentence. "Sometimes the truth burns louder than loyalty." I didn't reply. I didn't need to, because for the first time the silence belonged to me. The hearing ended, but the echoes stayed. 4 days my phone stayed silent. No messages, no calls, no half-hearted apologies disguised as concern. The quiet was new, almost unnatural. Then the reactions began. Cousins stopped replying to group texts. An aunt unfriended me online. A distant uncle sent a message that said, "You didn't have to take it that far." I stared at it for a long time before deleting it. Of course they didn't understand. Families like ours were built on silence, not truth. Valerie called on Monday. "The dispute is fully cleared," she said. "The lenders have confirmed the fraud statement. Your credit score is already recovering." I exhaled. Relief wasn't fireworks, it was stillness. The first breath after months of holding it in. Then she said, "There's one more thing." She emailed me a document. A certified copy of the property record, updated and sealed. Under owner, only my name remained. No cosigners. No caveats. No ghosts. It felt final. Until the knock came. It was evening. The sun was lowering behind the maple trees, bleeding orange across the porch. When I opened the door, Beverly stood there. Her hair was pulled back, her eyes swollen, her voice small. "Can I come in?" I hesitated, then nodded. She stepped into my tiny living room, looking around like she'd never seen how I lived before, as if she'd assumed I only existed inside our mother's house. "I wanted to see you," she said quietly. "Mom's not doing well." I said nothing. "She barely leaves the bedroom. She keeps saying she can't believe you did this to her." A dry laugh escaped me. I protected myself. That's all. Beverly's eyes filled again. I know now. That surprised me. She took a shaky breath. "After the hearing, I saw the documents. Your name, her signature. Everything. I told her to stop lying and Beverly stopped, pressing a hand to her mouth. "She said she did it for me. That she just wanted to fix what Marcus broke." I looked at her. "Did that make you feel better?" "No," she whispered. "It made me feel like her accomplice." The words hung between us, heavy and human. "She won't talk to me anymore," Beverly added. "She says I took your side." "You didn't," I said. "You told the truth. That's not a side, it's a step." Tears slid down her cheeks. "I'm sorry, Judith. I really am. I didn't understand what it meant until I saw her try to take something that was never hers. For the first time in years I believed her." "Then learn from it," I said softly. "Don't spend your life cleaning up other people's choices." She nodded. "Can I ask you one thing?" "What?" "Are you going to evict her?" I paused. The question I had been avoiding. The one that split the line between justice and mercy. "I don't know yet," I said. "Part of me thinks she should face it. But another part still remembers her as Mom." Beverly wiped her face. "Whatever you decide, I'll understand." When she left, the night felt heavier. The silence returned. Not hostile, not empty, just mine. Later Mira called. "How are you holding up?" "I won," I said. "But it doesn't feel like winning." "That's because you're still standing in the wreckage," she said. "Give it time. Justice always sounds quieter than revenge, but it lasts longer." Her words settled deep. That weekend I drove to the house again. The porch light was off. Curtains drawn. Through the front window I saw a sliver of movement, my mother sitting alone in the dark. I didn't knock. I just watched for a moment the way she once watched over me when I was small and sick, except now the distance was reversed. She had her kingdom, her favorites, her rules. And she had burned it all to ashes. When I turned to leave, I felt something ease in my chest. Not forgiveness. Something quieter. Release. The next morning Valerie emailed again. "The restitution payments are secured. Funds will transfer to your account monthly." I looked at the number. It wasn't about the money anymore. It was about the name on the line above it. Judith A. Larson, beneficiary. I smiled faintly. The girl they used to call too cautious had finally made them careful. 3 weeks passed. Life began to find its rhythm again, like a song I almost remembered but had to hum quietly until the notes returned. The bills were paid on time. My credit score crept back upward, slow but steady. The emails that once made my stomach twist were now just numbers and balances. Mira came over every Sunday with coffee and gossip, pretending it was casual, but I knew she was checking to see if I was okay. "I'm fine," I told her one morning, and for the first time it was true. The world hadn't collapsed without them. It had simply become quieter. I started small renovations on my house, replacing broken shutters, repainting the porch rails my father built. Every stroke of paint felt like reclaiming something more than wood. It was history retold in my own handwriting. But even peace carries shadows. One afternoon, I came home to a plain envelope taped to my door. No return address, just my name in shaky handwriting I recognized instantly. "Mom." I stood there for a full minute before opening it. Inside was a short letter, written in the same cursive she once used to sign my permission slips. "Judith, I know you will never forgive me, and I do not expect you to. I did what I thought was right even when it was wrong. I don't understand your world, credit scores, contracts, all these cold numbers. I only understand family, and I wanted to keep ours together. I failed. The house looks empty now. Beverly barely visits. I keep thinking I hear your father in the hall, but it's just the wind. I wish I had listened to him, and to you. I will be gone by the end of the week. Don't worry about me. Take care of the home. It was always yours, even when I pretended otherwise. Mom." The paper trembled slightly in my hands. Gone by the end of the week. I didn't know if that meant she was leaving or something worse. I called Beverly immediately. "She left," Beverly said, voice cracking. "She packed a few bags and said she was going to stay with Aunt Carol in Wisconsin. She said she needed space." Relief washed through me. Unexpected, confusing, sharp. "She'll be fine," Beverly said, half believing it. "She just doesn't know how to live without being in charge. She'll learn," I said softly. The next morning I drove by the old house one last time. The windows were open. Curtains fluttered like they were breathing again. For the first time it didn't look haunted. I walked up the porch, unlocked the door and stepped inside. The air smelled faintly of lavender and dust. On the kitchen counter, beside the old ceramic sugar jar, sat one more note, folded neatly, left behind for me. "If you ever come back, paint the dining room yellow again. Your father said it made the light feel kind." I pressed the note to my chest. There were no tears. Just warmth, small, quiet, undeserved but real. When I stepped back outside, the afternoon sun poured over the yard. The roses Dad had planted were still blooming. I pulled out my phone and texted Mira. "It's done. The house feels like mine now." She replied instantly. "It always was. You just had to remind everyone." That night I lit a single candle by the window. Not for loss, not for memory, but for closure. The kind that doesn't come with applause, only peace. And when I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of the house before the noise, before the lies, before I had to fight for what was mine. Only laughter, sunlight, and the smell of fresh paint. The kind of quiet my father promised me. It has been 6 months since everything ended, or maybe since everything began. Time feels different now. Slower. Cleaner. My days no longer revolve around damage control. They revolve around choice. The house stands quiet, strong, and mine. The new yellow paint glows differently depending on the light. Gold in the morning, honey at sunset. I kept that promise to my father, even if my mother never sees it. Maybe one day she will. Beverly calls sometimes. She is rebuilding 2 smaller steps, fewer excuses. We do not talk about the court hearing anymore. We talk about gardens, recipes, the small ordinary things that used to feel impossible between us. That is enough. Mom wrote one more letter last month. This time there was no guilt, no plea, just one sentence. "I hope you finally feel safe in the home your father built." And I do. But safety feels different now. It is not about walls or doors. It is about knowing I can stand inside my own life without apology. Some mornings I still wake up expecting the old tension, the dread of what new crisis family will demand from me today. Then I remember. I am not the family fixer anymore. I am the woman who drew the line and made it hold. People like my mother do not understand that boundaries are not betrayal. They are rescue. Because I spent years believing I was selfish for saying no. That keeping peace meant keeping quiet. That love had to mean endurance. But I was wrong. Love without respect is just manipulation wrapped in sentiment. And when someone tells you that protecting yourself is cruel, remember, they benefit from your guilt. The night before the deed hearing, I was terrified. Not of losing the house, of losing them. Now I see that sometimes you have to lose what's rotting to save what's alive. That truth rebuilt me. Today my credit is clean. My name is clear. My reflection looks like someone I trust again. And every time I pass a mirror I think, she did not break. She just stopped bending. If you are listening to this and you recognize even a sliver of yourself, the quiet helper, the peacekeeper, the strong one, they rely on until you have nothing left, hear me. You are not heartless for demanding honesty. You are not cruel for enforcing fairness. You are not wrong for refusing to carry what was never yours. Sometimes revenge does not look like chaos. Sometimes it looks like a woman signing her own name and meaning it. I do not hate my mother. But I no longer let her rewrite me. Because forgiveness is not forgetting. It is remembering clearly and still choosing peace. So yes, my mother used my credit. She gambled my future to save someone else's illusion. But she forgot the one truth that undid her plan. I own the deed. To the house. To my life. To my name. And I intend to keep it. If my story stayed with you, subscribe. More stories are coming, stories where women stop being the background and start taking back what was theirs all along. Because sometimes the quietest revenge is simply becoming untouchable.